Today marks 1672nd day, day lessons, day reflections. And today I want to focus on reflection about delayed consequences. I think that's the main reason why people make wrong choices is that the consequences of their decision is delayed. And because delayed, it doesn't happen immediately, people sometimes even don't consider what their actions will lead to. And because they don't consider what they'll lead to, have no idea what it will lead to, those consequences at some point hit. Today, I wrote down 10 things that I would love to reflect on. I didn't reflect much about those things, so probably I will still say the statement, and after that, I will share my reflections and thoughts and perspectives. But I think it's a beautiful thing to reflect on delayed consequences because when I think about end up in a position that you didn't want to be in, I think that one of the reasons that we end up in a position that we don't want to be in is that delayed consequences. Is that the decisions that we made in the past, the patterns that we were running, the habits that we had, the choices we were making were leading us into position that we are in right now. And knowing that we are in this position very likely because of delayed consequences, I think that why it's so important to really reflect on delayed consequences. Number one is that you're always compounding in an even forward or backward. And it's interesting that life not able to be neutral. You every single day you are moving forward or backwards. It's an interesting thing that sometimes people stay in the same place for 5 years, go by in this exactly same space. So what do you mean that there's no forward or back? How a person could stay in exactly the same spot? Because they move 2 steps forward, 2 steps back, two steps forward, 2 steps back, and they start routine, they stop routine, they start routine, they stop routine, and then they move forward and move backwards. And that means that we compounding, but we do not allow that compounding to kick in properly, neither backwards, neither forward. And that person is, even though that is not neutral, is always moving forward or backwards, but that compounding doesn't hit because 1 month is great month, 1 month is low month. At that moment, a person stays the same after 5 years. And that's again delayed consequence of really moving forward and go backwards is that after 5 years, allocating, and sometimes even that month, we worked so hard on something. We pushed so hard, we moved so hard forward. And after 5 years, you look into results doesn't show up. And the main reason is the delayed consequence is that we didn't build momentum. We didn't stay. We didn't build momentum and stayed with it. We didn't compound. So when we look into our actions, when we look into the 5 years, did I really sustain the effort for a long period of time before the compounding start to show up, before the momentum kicks in, before your actions start to really bring so much more results? Because at the beginning, you put one effort, you don't get results. You put one effort, you don't get results. You put 20 efforts before you get one result. And at some point in the future is one effort, one result. And when you really look on compounding after 5 years, when you really do the right thing, it might be that you put one effort and you get 20 results. But that's just compounding. And it could be both ways. It could be backwards as well. That means you did something terrible, and that one action and terrible thing could lead to minus 20 compounding. And that's exactly when people really eat the terrible food, get diabetes. Now, eating sugar will destroy their body even more. And that's what we're compounding in a backwards means. Number two, your future life is already predictable from your current repetitions. Your future is already predictable from your current repetitions. Now, it might say that, oh, I don't know where my repetitions, my actions will lead you. And that is potentially a blind spot for yourself because every single person is supposed to know exactly where they end up within 5 years if they keep repeating what they're doing right now. And if you do not know where you end up, probably one of the best time to really go and find a mentor who could potentially understand how actions influence your future and ask, okay, what do you do on a daily basis? So if you keep repeating this action for next 5 years, what that potentially could lead to? who I will become if I keep repeating this one action. And we need to look into all actions, not just chosen ones. And then that's why it's very, very important to really have a list of weekly actions. What kind of tasks and actions do you do on a weekly basis? Because when we have a list, now we are able to ask, okay, what this action could potentially lead me to. And when you know that we understand that, okay, delayed consequences of those small actions, because if we do not know what we do on a weekly basis, what are the tasks, sometimes we ignore those delayed consequences because we do not know where those actions could potentially lead to. Number three, the person you become is hidden inside your tolerated standards. And that's again the delayed consequences. And it's interesting because when I think about, I already spoke about that at the beginning of the year was like a rock bottom in a lot of different areas, and this was number one for me, hidden inside of tolerated standards. My toleration for the things, for the bad things in my life allowed me to really put myself in an environment that really sabotaged me. And this part is that I used to see as suffering and pain as something that you need to pay, but not every single suffering that you need to actually choose to. Not every single suffering is beneficial for you. And sometimes is getting out of those sufferings and that pain is much, much better because at some point the late consequence of that could lead to not great place. So standards, tolerated standards, is something that we always need to look at. Because again, part of when we look into the tasks and activities of the week and actions that we take, okay, so what is in there that potentially could be regarding tolerated standards? And we need to review those standards because it might be that operating much, much lower standard that we're supposed to be because those standards will kick our ass if we do not look in them. Number four, delayed consequences distort your sense of causality. And this is very interesting. Some things compound not for 1 year, not for 2 years, not for 5 years, sometimes for 10 years, even 15 years before actually results kick in. And because those results of delayed consequence are so late, we sometimes really could attach that causality, who caused that issue, to wrong things, total wrong things. And sometimes we can say like, "Oh, this person destroyed my life," but what caused that? And then I can be able to look into really where everything started. What kind of actions could potentially really lead me to? Because that cause, that pattern, that thought pattern that we had, that really caused even that other action, and that's what probably one of the hardest things to do is that at some point you can really look into your life and where you end up, and you really start to really potentially look into where your fault is. But if you look into just 1 year or 2 years ago, that the decision that you made a year ago, but that could be the decision and choice that you made 15 years ago that really led you to this position. And I think that is extremely important to really constantly review your decision choices and activities and tasks so you know again what your repeated actions will lead to. Because otherwise we might end up into really loss, really who caused this situation. Number five, the most dangerous consequences are the ones that rewards you first. And this is interesting that the most dangerous consequences are the ones that rewards you first. And this again, partly is one of the easy examples always is food. That means that when you eat a cake, you enjoy pleasure at the moment. You enjoy pleasure, so that means that you got rewarded. You wanted something sweet, and you ate cake, and you got rewarded immediately. But the late consequence of that is it's unhealthy fat on your body, reduced energy, potential risks regarding your heart, regarding your body, regarding your liver, regarding everything around your body. Inflammation, there are so many different things. That means that there's so many things, even that accepting in a new environment, that you really put the mask on. Not you're not authentic you, but you put the mask on just to fit in some kind of new environment that rewards you. You feel accepted, you feel belonging, But delayed consequence will be that you will need to lose so much energy and you will forget who you truly are because now you're always putting that mask in a different environment. So you want to belong. And being able to really say who I am, and I need to find the people who I truly am, that I could show my true authenticity rather than put a mask in the wrong environment at the first place. Number six, delayed consequences make weak choices feel harmless. Delayed consequences make weak choices feel harmless. It's interesting because a lot of times the actions that we take doesn't seem harmless. It seems neutral. And I think that's one of the biggest mistakes that people do, including myself. Like I'm part of a human, that we really do actions and we look into action and we don't say like, oh, this action neither good, neither bad. Maybe it's just neutral. But again, I think that there's no much neutral. It's or adding or taking away from your future vision if you have a vision, if you have set direction for your life. Because of course, if you don't have a vision and don't have set direction to your life, every action is leading nowhere where it actually sets your life to. And most actions that are bringing delayed consequence seems harmless. And that's why at the beginning I said that we need to really have a list of tasks of weekly that we need to write down and say, okay, what is actually this action doing in my life? Because even as it's a harmless, let's say that this action is harmless, is neutral. Let's say it's neutral. But this neutral action is taking away energy, taking away time, and taking away resources. And if we look into our all day actions is based on harmless actions or neutral actions. So much time is wasted on harmless, neutral action that is evasive. The late consequence of that is that we, after 5 years, we are not where we're supposed to be because we spend so much time on harmless, neutral activities. And that's why we need to audit our activities so we can spend time on things that matter, not the things that really keeps us where we are. Number seven, probably the last one, is that your life is being shaped by things that don't feel important today. It's interesting because when we look into the things that will be important in the future, and I think that this question is not very common in our vocabulary. What will be important in my future? Who I want to be, who I want to become, and what kind of traits that person will have. That means that potentially future you, the vision you have set for yourself, will be different than who you are today. And because that future you needs to develop things, that means sometimes we are developing current you with all the actions that we do currently. And the things that needs to be developed, the future you, the things that he needs to do feels unimportant. And we don't do them. And that future me, future you is not coming as fast as it could be because the things that's supposed to be will be important in the future, we don't put prioritize today. Because I think that's very important to really start taking action based on future you and make priority because sometimes the things that seems very unimportant when you look into compounding it's tremendously important. And sometimes when you realize that the actions that you did bring so much benefits, and that's again partly of delayed consequences. And it just the I will just read the I will not explain it, but I think that's extremely important to really think about as well. That I wrote it three more that the longer you avoid reality, the more painful it becomes. That's just obvious. The second one, every avoided difficulty becomes future limitation. Again, the more you avoid, the more you want to avoid again and again and again, and that becomes your ceiling. And last one, what you repeatedly consume eventually becomes your mind. And that's again that delay of consequences that sometimes we say like, why I don't communicate as well, why my vocabulary is so poor, why I'm so negative. And that is delayed consequence of all the input that you have received over your life. So the delayed consequences is a unique and important topic because we are today based on delayed consequences of compounding of all the things that we did in the past and all the things and all the circumstances that happened for us and what we're able to really gather from that. So very unique and beautiful topic. So I hope you choose to win and see you tomorrow.